people ask me, they say, why are you a Cowboys fan? And I was like, well, it really you only had in Knoxville, you had 4 choices. It was like the Dolphins or Raiders, Cowboys, Steelers, because they were on TV all the time. So I just picked the Cowboys. But I did root for Josh Dobbs against the Cowboys yesterday. And it's just fantastic to see Josh Dobbs getting his first win as an NFL starting quarterback against what was the best defense coming into the league. Now, they lost Trayvon Diggs with the ACL injury, the very good cornerback, but kudos to Josh Dobbs. I mean, is there a more beloved good player? Because, Caleb, I don't think he was a great player, but a more beloved good player in Tennessee football history.
No, and it's Josh Dobbs. Again, we've talked about this. He doesn't have a strong arm, but he makes the most of what he can do. And we're seeing in Arizona, I mean, yes, they're probably tanking for Caleb Williams, but they're at least putting him in positions to succeed, which the Titans didn't do when he started last year. One of the things that stood out to me about Dobbs with Arizona yesterday, Dave, and I'm sure you watched the game.
Oh, yeah.
Do you notice that, like, because we talk about Milton and pocket presence, whatever else you want to say about Dobbs, he knows where to step in the pocket and when to step in the pocket and when to take off as a mobile quarterback, which is an underrated. Josh Dobbs has all of Hendon Hooker's traits without the arm strength. That's the only thing that separates Hooker and Dobbs is Hooker's got a better arm. But if Dobbs had a better arm, he would have so much NFL potential, but it's so much respect for the guy. He really carried Tennessee through a dark period. And he took a lot of licks for things that really weren't his fault because people didn't realize how bad the program was under Butch Jones. And I just want to bring this up. There's of each of the failed coaches, Dooley, Butch Jones, and Pruitt, you have quarterbacks that are synonymous with the era. There's Tyler Bray, Josh Dobbs, Jared Garantano. I'm just going to compare Dobbs and Bray real quick. Tyler Bray had way more talent than Josh Dobbs. It was on an NFL roster for years. But Dobbs got an NFL start before Tyler Bray did. That speaks to the difference in intangibles between the two quarterbacks.
I completely agree. Listen, the reason he got an opportunity at Arizona is because Kyler Murray is a big goofball. For those that don't remember him, he is a guy that had to have written in his contract that you will study film for X amount of hours a week. That's stuff that people should just show up doing. That's part of your job. That's like, Caleb, in order to be on the show, you have to put a shirt on. Okay. So, I mean, if he had Kyler Murray's ability, I will go ahead and tell you right now, he would be the best quarterback in the NFL, and he would have been a number 1 pick, even at Kyler Murray's size, which is pretty diminutive, because Josh Dobbs gets it. Let's look at his career for a second. He goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers from 2017 to 2019. Then he goes to Jacksonville. The Steelers think so much of him that they bring him back. That's pretty much unheard of. He goes back to the Steelers from 2020 to 2021. Then he goes to the Browns. He goes to Detroit. He goes to the Titans in 2022, last year, in which he got his first NFL start, right?
Yep, when Todd Downing totally set him up to fail.
Yeah, and then back to Cleveland. That tells you, again, what a team thinks of him. And then he's able to go to Arizona. How many guys would have said, to heck with this? I mean, because you've got your 5 years in already, and you could get your pension. That's the magic number for NFL players. You then get a pension where once you turn 45, you really don't have to work anymore. He could have done that. And he could have already had that done, but he continues to keep battling, and he did so. And I just think that he is, because the aerospace engineering, because such a solid citizen when Tennessee had a tyrannical head coach is just incredible. I mean, let's face it, Tyler Bray was pretty much ruined by his college experience, and he has had a solid NFL career as a backup. But Joshua Dobbs played well despite having limited ability. And you talk about guys that have maximized what they have, what God gave them. He is truly one of those guys.
Yeah, and I get the defense where people say Tyler Bray was ruined, but theoretically, Josh Dobbs should have been ruined too, because he had his own terrible coach, and Josh Dobbs rose above that and had one of the most productive offensive seasons in Tennessee football history. And now he's in the NFL. And you're right. His story is a great lesson in life, because he got his 5 years. And how often do you hear Nick Saban rant about backups not being as committed and prepared for when their opportunity comes? Look at Josh Dobbs, career backup. And you can tell with him becoming a starter. By the way, guys, I know it was his first win, but if you look at his stat line, he has not been bad this year. He's actually been relatively decent.
No,
that speaks to he has stayed prepared and ready for this shot, and he wasn't thrown to the wolves when it happened. And I can't speak highly enough about a quarterback like that, who sat and labored for 5.5 years before this happened. Who's the last quarterback? I'm trying to think, Dave. Who's a quarterback that bounced around as a backup for 5 to 6 years before they got their first chance to start a full season? I don't know if that ever happens.
Man, other than just a crazy injury, but they went into the season expecting him to be the guy. I really can't think of one. I may later, but how would he have been in Josh Heupel's offense?
Not as good.
Not as good?
Okay. Not that good. You need a big arm in Josh Heupel's offense, and that's the one thing Dobbs doesn't have. And by the way, let me say this. Peyton Manning would not have been as good as Heath Schuler or T. Martin in Josh Heupel's offense. Now, he's way better than Schuler and Martin, but in Heupel's offense specifically, you need that big arm. You need that beautiful deep ball, and that's something that Dobbs was lacking significantly. Tyler Bray would have been better in Heupel's offense.
I think Tyler Bray would have been better if he didn't have the attitude, which let's assume was partially college coaching induced. Okay. So, but I don't have as much of a problem with his arm. You brought that up a couple of times. It's not the monster arm, but he's got an NFL arm. So you people talk about strong arms or not. And this came up with the Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning thing back in the day. You have to have a baseline of an NFL arm that you can make all the throws, but you don't have to be Joe Milton or Anthony Richardson and have the mega arm where you can throw a deep out from the opposite hash. You don't have to have that. I actually think his arm would have been strong enough. I think he not only would have been good, but excellent in Josh Heupel's offense, because even more than the big arm, Caleb, you got to remember, if he reads defenses correctly and when the ball's coming out as soon as his back foot hits, you're gaining a half second to a second on the play where a Joe Milton arm might make up for the bit of a delay in decision making. Josh Dobbs is going to hit the back foot and get it out. And to me, that's what would have made him excellent in this offense. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I just don't have as big of a problem with his arm as you've pointed out a couple of times.
But you're right. It doesn't need to be Joe Milton or Anthony Richardson, but doesn't it need to be bigger than the NFL baseline requirement in Heupel's system? Don't you need a little bit beyond that? Because Dobbs is barely crossing that NFL baseline threshold.
I think if you can sling it in the NFL and all those coaches have signed you to a contract, they're saying that you have a strong enough arm to play in the NFL. And if you have a strong enough arm to play in the NFL, you have one of the strongest arms in college football. Now, when I say strongest arms, there are 120 teams. So I might be saying top 30 percentile. But I think that would be strong enough. And his decision-making, I think, would be absolutely through the roof. A couple of different people they brought up. Fitzgerald was one that bounced around forever.
But Fitzgerald wasn't a long-time backup. I mean, he started his first 5 years in Buffalo, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I can't come up with a perfect comparison.
Yeah, you guys need to find me somebody who was a backup for 6 years, bounced around as a backup for 6 years, and then got a start. 5 or 6 years, something like that. I mean, that's by the way, cut twice.
Yeah, I mean, cut twice. I was pretty surprised he got the start for the Titans, and then he gets a start for. He basically, and here's the deal. Here's why it opened up for him. For those that don't know, Kyler Murray, if he gets hurt on the field this season, he gets like a big kicker in terms of his contract, because the rest of his contract's guaranteed. So that's why he's not playing. And they went to Dobbs. So here's the other thing, Caleb, we haven't even brought up. Dobbs goes to Arizona not knowing the offense barely a month before the season, and he's ready to roll. That's pretty impressive too.
Oh, that's very impressive. You're absolutely right. And it really speaks to his level of his work ethic and his intelligence. I mean, the thing is, one thing he has that other people don't, and I will say this for Josh Dobbs. This is kind of funny to say, but the one gift he is blessed with is intelligence. There are other athletes that could work as hard as him that aren't going to pick up the offense as quickly as him, because Josh Dobbs is just a really smart guy in general.
Agreed, but I think there's a difference between it being football smart and off the field smart. Yeah, I mean, as far as quick decisions, I think Dobbs has both. So sometimes I think we talk about a smart player and he doesn't make quick decisions on the football field, and we're like, well, he may be getting a 4.0 in college, but he's not doing as much in the NFL. So who else? And I want to ask the message board this: who else is the most beloved good ball? The most beloved good ball. I mean,
so we're not talking like great superstar, but somebody who's had a decent career in the NFL and you're rooting for him. You're happy for him.
Right. Don't give me an Al Wilson. Okay. Because Al Wilson was an elite player. Don't give me a Peyton Manning. That's an elite player. Don't give me that. But I'm going to ask the message board for a second, and we'll kind of extend this thing out. I will give you one, and I'm not being self-serving here because he's a part of what we do. I think it's Fred White. The people that just gravitate towards Fred because the way he hit people and the way he played so hard. And I'll share another story that I didn't know about Fred until we did the Celebrate 98 series, and the Philip Fulmer episode is up now. But I didn't know this. And you can also buy the book right down below, Celebrate 98, available at Hound Dogs and Alumni Hall. A little plug there. But you probably don't know this, Fred or Caleb, but Fred, well, I think I told you recently, but Fred was on campus. They immediately say, we're going to move you to safety, so start eating, which he ran a 10.2, which I know surprised you. He ran a 10.2 in the 100 meters, which is uber fast. And they say, we've got so many great cornerbacks that you've got to move to safety. So he eats, he grows, he gets bigger. Also, his freshman year, he was set to make the travel squad and play, and his dad passed away suddenly with a heart attack. And so there was every reason for him to give up on football, and he didn't. So I would have Fred White as far as a good player, maybe not elite player, but is absolutely beloved. Anybody else? Do you have any other thoughts out there as far as former Vols? And I'll extend this out just a little bit. Jeremy Banks gets a vote. I think that's the exact opposite. An elite player athletically, that's a jackwagon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go, and I'm seeing it on the message board, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's Juwan Jennings. He's a solid receiver. I don't know if he'll ever be a number one receiver, but Juwan Jennings is beloved at Tennessee. And I know some people think that the way he behaved at the coaching staff in 2017, this just shows you how unpopular the Butch Jones staff was when they left in 2017. That Juwan Jennings could do what he did, and everybody in Knoxville, media, whatever, sided with Juwan Jennings. He is beloved in the NFL. Guys, also, because I'm seeing some things on the message boards, they can't be great Vols. They can't be Pro Bowlers, okay? So Don't name Chad Clifton. He was great.
Yeah, he was great. Stanley Morgan.
Also a Pro Bowler. You can't name Stanley Morgan.
Yeah, but I didn't think he was an elite
career, 3-time Pro Bowler. He's probably the best receiver in the NFL to ever play at Tennessee.
Yeah, but he wasn't as good as Carl Pickens and Alvin Harper, I didn't think. I mean,
it was a different era, though.
I know. It's kind of the way you look at it. I thought Stanley Morgan of that group was probably, of that run of receivers they had, probably towards the bottom of the very good ones. So I see where our comments coming from. Oh, here's one that I think would probably fit under the kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I think Trey Smith is going to be great pretty soon. I think he's on the cusp of great.
Okay, I do too, but he didn't have a great college career because of the blood clots. So that kind of fits into my category. A little bit of a reach.
Possibly. Oh, mine, by the way, since we're sticking with receivers, because he was great in college, but good in the NFL, is Peerless Price. I love Peerless. I tell anybody who listens, Peerless Price is one of my favorite players of all time because, guys, think about Peerless for a second. You're the number 2 receiver waiting in the wings. And the minute you become the number 1 receiver, you're not having Peyton Manning throw you the ball, and the coaches kind of tell you we're going to become more of a run-oriented team. Could you imagine being peerless in that moment, Dave, after you waited your chance to be the number one receiver and you're told, oh, no, we're going to be more of a run-oriented team this year. And he made every play possible after that.
We had a vote for Princeton Fant. That's a very good one. I've got the ultimate one, though. I just came up in my head on the fly. I've got it. Sammy says Alvin Kamara.
He's not good. He's great.
Yeah, I agree. But didn't have a great college career. The best one's T. Martin. How about T. Martin?
An NFL career, but you're right. I'm with you on that. I'm more on T. Martin's side now because of and you told me this recently, that T. Martin took a lot of hits for not taking the Tennessee job when he was offered the assistant coaching position by Butch Jones. But you told me that was a show interview, that he was never really offered that job significantly. That he took a lot of hits from Tennessee fans for not taking the job, but he never came out publicly and threw Butch Jones under the bus for not actually offering him the job and for making a show of it. And that was really classy of him.
Agree. We'll go some other ones that I think are great. So I don't know if they fit the category, but as far as beloved balls, Eric Berry would have been
Hall of Fame safety.
Yeah, would have been a Hall of Famer. So but he's definitely beloved and didn't have the career because of a multitude of injuries, including cancer. But you remember he overcame a significant injury at Tennessee too. So I think you're talking about one of the best defensive backs of all time, like up there in the conversation of Ronnie Lott with Eric Berry, but he was more versatile and actually played outside linebacker one year for the Chiefs. And Jason Witten, again, was an elite player, one of the better tight ends in NFL history. And here's a good one, though. Levi says Theo Jackson. That's a good one.
He had an interception, his first interception, I think 2 weeks ago in the NFL. Theo Jackson was forced to bounce around as a utility defensive back for 4 years, sitting behind other guys. Josh Heupel takes over. Tim Banks comes and says, you are firmly in place at nickel. You're our nickel back, and you're going to stay there the whole year. And he had an amazing senior season. He and Alontae Taylor, I'm huge fans of both of them.
A couple of others, and before we move on, we've got Inky Johnson, who I think would have been he would have been a good corner, but size would have gone against him in the NFL, obviously with the arm injury that he was never able to have that potential. A.J. Johnson, one for a weird situation in which his career was really put on hold, if not destroyed. I would definitely go with that one as well. So great interaction with the message board. Absolutely love that. And you guys,
Knox County DA should absolutely be ashamed of herself to this day for dragging out that AJ Johnson trial. I mean, it was thin evidence, and she always knew she was going to lose that case. But all you really did was put somebody's NFL career on hold for 4 years for a crime you knew they were going to get acquitted of. Yeah,
and she may have been ignorant to the point that you don't understand that impact. You have such a short time. We're not talking about 30-year careers. We're talking about 6-year careers.
Yes.
Most often.
This is the same DA who's indicting Jaylen McCullough now, by the way. That should give you an idea into her credibility.
That thing's dragging out too.
Yep. She's dragging it out. She should be ashamed of herself. I don't want to weigh in politically, but if you guys can vote for DAs, I'm just putting that out there, that she's the same one.
I mean, I love Caleb, but I've never loved Caleb more than this point right now when he's calling for DA's jobs. I mean, there he goes. Look at him. God forbid Caleb and I should ever be in Knoxville together and I return to my old days and we start partying and get pulled over, because the DA is going to come down on us hard. Absolutely hard.